In the darkest night, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Surviving together, victorious. Never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey everybody. Okay, so we have a slight camera issue. I did a reset and apparently it is not recognizing my other camera. So it's wanting to only use my laptop camera. So give me one moment, people, while I go into my settings here. There we be. Hi, y'all. Okay, good. That's much better. How are you? Okay, I have really torqued this around so I can actually change this to get my paintings back in the picture because I love my paintings. So, hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Surviving Together. Thanks for being part of our SAS community here. If you're uncertain of where you landed, this is Surviving Together. We're a safe space for sexual assault and other trauma survivors to gather, get some support from each other, and learn and heal. I am so sorry I missed Wednesday. I was in the throes of finishing up an assignment, and in my line of work, I can never guarantee when the next project's going to come. So I really had to suck up the hours while I had them. So that is why we were off there. We are not on a new one yet, but I think we'll be on a new one very soon. So, Janet, that is so weird that my channel didn't come up on your live feed. I put a thumbnail on it, and I did it straight through YouTube so that maybe that would pop up. I did my notifications a couple days ago. So I have no idea. I have no idea what in the world. I don't know what's going on for you, Janet. Is anybody else having problems seeing that I have a live or being notified of when I've posted my live time or anybody? I'm just so uncertain. Okay, and here's another deal, guys, I need to let you know about is that for some reason, and let's go straight to the phones here, and let's see. So currently, my phone says 309, and currently, my computer is also saying 309. Yesterday, my phone said like 11:15 or something like that. My computer said 10:49. So no idea what's going on with my computer, but they're not always matching. So I'm slowly learning right now that I cannot trust my computer time. So, i.e., that's why I was a few minutes late. because I looked at my computer time and it didn't say it was time to get ready yet. So I ran downstairs real quick. But apparently I didn't have as much time as I thought I did. So that's what happened there. All righty, let us see who is here. Crystal, so good you're here. Shannon, I'm glad you're here. Good to see both of you. And Janet, it looks like it's the 4 of us for right now. I am going to start this off by saying, anybody know who Paula Porskova is? If you're roughly-ish my age and from North America or Europe, you probably will recognize her name. If not, I'm sure you would recognize her face. She was a famous supermodel in the 80s and 90s. Yes. Hi, Deaudrey. How you doing? Yep, the model. And I'm going to show you a picture of her now. And I'm doing this for a reason. Let me show you. I'm going to share with my screen with you. Okay, can everyone see this absolutely gorgeous woman here? She did marry Rick Ocasek is the guy of the cars. She was 20 years older than she was. They got married. She was 19 when she met him, I think, and they married shortly thereafter, so in her early 20s somewhere. She is my age. I think she's like 6 months older than I am, something like that. And you are right, Janet, not 1 ounce of plastic surgery on this woman. She never wanted it. She wanted to be 100% authentic. And that was the only reason why I clicked on this video to listen to her speak for 15 minutes or so. And the reason that she did, which was just incredible to me, it was a channel about ageism. They were talking about ageism, and they deal with I think diversity issues of all different sorts. The channel does. In this particular video, they were talking about ageism, and she, what she's starting to suffer for on social media, where people are like, oh my God, J-Lo's only a year younger than you are, and she looks so much better than you. And so she's getting these comparisons to these other people who are around 50-ish, plus or minus a few years, and are showing that they look so much better. And her thing is, well, yeah, I could look like that, but I don't want to do the plastic surgery necessary for that. I feel like I know so much more. I am so much more of a human being now. I am more than my looks. So why should that not be on display now? And I applaud her for it even more because of her background, because she was a supermodel. It'd be very easy for her to say, no, I need to look young all the time. I need to, continuing on with this. And I only bring it out because the whole thing was about not just the ageism, but why? What have you suffered from in terms of ageism, and how are you doing in your life right now, and what's going on for you? And what struck me when she says at the very end, she starts fully clothed and her hair's up and everything, and what you saw was the end result of her taking everything off except her underwear. And she said, who am I now? She said, well, I know myself so much more, and in that I'm very happy. But she says, in a whole lot of ways, I'm just a broken woman. I thought, oh my gosh, you're still relatively young. You're beautiful for your age. I mean, she's beautiful just period, but especially for her age. I mean, it's just, how can you be so broken? And she shared about her fairly miserable marriage to her husband, um, the guy of cars, and they were nearly divorced at the end. I guess like the last 3 years or so, they've been kind of technically separated. They were headed towards divorce if he hadn't died. So he died before they separated. But she said she very much felt like a coffee table, an object, something to bring out, talk about, and then put back. Because everything was based on her appearance. And she didn't realize it at the time. And she didn't see anything wrong with their relationship at the time because she was abandoned by her parents, literally abandoned by her parents. And she didn't understand why that happened. And so the fact that she didn't get the kind of love when she was a kid that she thought she should have, being seen by her husband, she always felt validated. You know, she was being seen. She never felt seen by her parents. And I will say that abandonment issue, I've watched a lot of stuff this morning. So she may not have been physically, if she was not physically abandoned by her parents, then she was emotionally abandoned by them. I just don't want to make sure I'm sure that I'm not putting anything out there that I'm not 100% sure of. I don't know that she was so much a trophy wife. Rick was 45 when he married her, and she was definitely the definition of um, a trophy wife in terms of him being older and her being younger and whatnot. But I don't know if he had a second marriage or not. If this was a second marriage or if he had been married beforehand, that aspect of it, I don't know. So it just struck me that somebody, again, who has so much going for her, beautiful, had this, she was with him for 35 years, guys. She was like, this is the only man I've ever been with. This is the only man I've ever known. And I guess she did, after he passed, she did get out and she dated for a little while, but that person left her as well. And so she was really left with the feeling that I must not be worthy of love. And I bring this out because how many of us have felt this way because of a myriad of things that have happened in our lives? Not necessarily from the SA, although that alone can make a lot of us question our value and question how much, love we deserve. I don't know if any of that has gone on for this woman. All I know is here's a beautiful woman who has lived very well financially off, who has the same struggles that we do. And I know it's easy to say sometimes, that those people are people too, we point to the rich and famous. I just really want to drive it home how alike we all are. At the base, the types of feelings that we have, good and bad, a lot of it stems from our childhood. And they weren't rich and famous when they were a kid. At least most of them not, right? It's just universal. And I never want you to feel so isolated that this is the only way. It only happens to people like you, not people like them. I don't know. It just struck me so hard today. And maybe it's after listening to another friend this week who didn't seem to get it. Here's a woman, and you think that they would absolutely have it all. And again, and it's the point I made to my son over and over and over again, especially in middle school. You never know what those people's lives are like behind closed doors. When they go home from school, when they drive home from school, you have no idea what's waiting for them on the other side. They could seem like the most popular, outgoing kid there is, great looking, and they could have demons waiting for them behind their doors. You just don't know. So, human condition is a human condition. And it is true. It's very true, Shannon. Um, Appearance can really make a difference. We we have a prejudice against fat. We still do. It's declining, and I've seen it decline because I know that those people of my age, and we talk to them and they interview them, and I even speak amongst my friends, and we were grown up in the age where it very much, your weight was very much being considered in everything. I mean, we went through the aerobics craze and the beginning of the health food craze, which coincided with the beginning of let's supersize everything craze too. So, one is acting hand in hand with the other, right? We very fat phobic society I grew up in, and even now, I lost that weight unintentionally, and I've steadily over the last year, where I hadn't gained any weight, I've steadily put it back on. Not, I haven't put that back on, but I steadily put a weight back on. Now, some of it can be based on menopause. A lot of it is really, it's based on my lack of movement and my eating of carbs. I 100% know where the weights come from. It's not a surprise to me at all. But I am certainly hard on myself about it. I certainly am looking at it going, ooh, well, that's got to go before we decided, get out there at all. Or, I mean, I'm fortunate that I have people in my life who know how hard I am on myself about how I look, how I feel about how I look, because it definitely was something that I always struggled with growing up. And so they're very particular to make sure that they always let me know it. And I'm so fortunate to have these people in my life. And so it's still, though, there's one part that knows it, and there's still an emotional part that really struggles with it still. As much as I try and talk about how we love each other, how we should love each other just the way we are, and, we should love ourselves and love other people. It's when you turn the camera back at yourself, it gets harder, doesn't it? It gets a lot harder. It's always been true, Janet. Money buys a lot of things, but it doesn't buy happiness or love. And some people, well, it buys you stuff, and it buys you things that can make living easier. And that's true. But it's not going to, by buying any of that stuff, by having the money that you're not working anymore, that's not in and of itself going to make you happy. What I think about in terms of having enough money so that I don't have to work, it buys freedom. It buys freedom to do what you want to do. And if you have that kind of freedom and you don't have a desire, you don't have a direction, you don't have people in your life who you care about and want to take care of, or be with, family to be with, that money's not going to mean much. So you hope and I hope and pray that everybody's able to find their bigger purpose besides just working whatever job that they happen to have. And maybe that job is their purpose, and that's wonderful. I just really hope for everybody that you find that. And it doesn't mean that once you found your purpose that you have to act it out on a large scale. Whatever's comfortable for you. That's going to be, your purpose. Your purpose. Yes, Shannon, your struggles are very different based on the amount of resources that you have. 100%. It can it make a family who consistently doesn't have enough to eat happy because they have food on the in the cupboards and food they're able to make for dinner every day? 100%. 100%. But if they just still didn't have anything else in their lives, it's not going to fix everything. And that's the point that we all have to keep in mind. And I do myself, and it's such a critical time for me to believe what I'm saying and to live what I'm saying, because my son is just getting out there in the world, right? As a true adult. And this is the time, especially over the next 10 years or so, where, buying stuff, because you have like disposable income for the first time in forever. It's definitely a desire there, at least on my son. It's like I can do things, I can buy stuff. He's not out of the house yet, so he has a little more disposable income than if somebody who had simply moved out on his own, which, before he is 100% out of the house, he will be paying for more things here. And it's not because I don't want to provide for him. It's simply a matter of preparing him for having to do all this on his own. We're going to get into I don't want to call it a role play, but basically we're going to take expenses around here, and he's going to see how much he's saving by not having to chip in for, things around here. And I want him, for a period of 6 months, to put that amount of money aside from his paycheck. He already saves a whole lot of it, and I completely get that. But for 6 months, you take this amount from your paychecks and you set that aside, and you can't use it. Now, at the end, he's going to have a nice little nest egg that is going to go either into some investments or into a savings account. But my point about it is look how much less you really do have, and so that he really understands how much it takes up your income. And he's not going to be able to do some of the things that he can now, at least on the income that he's making now, and still be out on his own unless he has somebody living with him and he's sharing the expenses with somebody. It's just a fact, it's just a fact of the matter of what things cost and, how much you make. And it's different than how I grew up in terms of, I had everything taken care of for me until I got married. And then it was like, one day my mom was making my breakfast, and the next I was doing everything for myself. Now, I had gone to university, so I had spent 4 years, parts of it, on my own, doing my own thing, living in different places. I lived abroad. I lived different places domestically. I did as much with my university studies as I possibly could, and I was home as little as I possibly could be. But still, home's still there. That safety net's still there. And I don't want to have to rip that out from my son, but I do want him to be aware of what the quote unquote real world is like, right? And I know people differ on this. Some people think you should kick your kid out as soon as they're 18 and they're on their own, or if they're staying at home as soon as they hit 18 and they have a job, well, they're expected to foot half the bill or divide however many people are in the house, right? I don't think I need to go there personally. That's a personal decision. But definitely want to get them knowing what the world is about, how expensive it's going to be. I need to push this down a little bit. Okay. Hey, Mark, what's going on? How are things over there? Sorry, guys. Yeah, if anybody's losing weight, I hope it's for health reasons. And, it very much, the extra weight very much can affect us. And I know it was affecting me from a health standpoint, not just carrying the extra weight around. I mean, I felt the difference going upstairs when I was heavier, 60 pounds heavier versus, where I was last year. Even just this extra 10, well, it's almost 15 pounds now, I think. My face is fatter. And everything from my waist to my upper thighs, that's where I gained it all. And that's, part just being a woman, I think, and part just menopause. And that's risotto. I'd have to look over and see risotto. Oh, Mark, you're killing me. Yum. We've been trying to clean out the fridge. Okay, this is my first excuse. We've been trying to clean out the fridge. And unfortunately, we have a lot of processed foods, particularly in the freezer. So we have been air frying fiends here, which I got to admit, the pizza rolls and the chicken tenders and the French fries tasted really good. Do not let me fool you on that. Tasted really, really good, especially since David made it. David is my roommate. But our guts are feeling it today. So we're having salads for dinner tonight, guys. Our stomachs are just lemon, cinnamon, paprika, tomato paste, and ham. Interesting. I don't know much about risottos other than I do know you can flavor them with just about anything, but mushroom risotto is the one that, I've always had. So I don't know much about flavoring different risottos, but that sounds absolutely awesome. Shannon said that you still have kids who are taking care of their kids in their 30s. You know people who have kids who are still taking care of the kids in their 30s. Wow. I mean, like if they went out and fell flat on their faces trying something and came crawling back home because they needed somewhere to live and, you know, they didn't have a job right away because what they tried just, flashed and burned in a very spectacular way. I mean, it helps support them for a little bit, but at that age, you're expected to go out and get a job ASAP. I don't care where you work, you're working somewhere. And then you can figure out what you want to do, but you're not just going to lay there for as long as, you want or whatever. That's awesome, Crystal. that is awesome that you have started yourself a walking challenge. I've been given one. Apparently, I'm to walk the dog now every morning, which will start when they come back from camping. But if I don't have a dog to walk, I have been given a tree that I am to go out and touch every day. And this is in order to get me outside every day. But I actually do need the walk. So as long as I'm walking out the door, I'm actually doing an actual walk, and I will do my normal block that I've done in the past. I am just waiting for my stomach to feel better, because right now movement and the thought of movement really hurts. And then, yes, I bought gummy bears on top of all of that. So along with all the fat fried foods, my stomach is stuck with a ton of gelatin in it. But they're Albanese gummy bears, guys. They're the best. You can smell them through the packaging. Their smell's so strong. They never get hard. They're just the perfect gummy. I've got to go to their factory in Valparaiso, Indiana. I just got to. I hear that they actually have the gummies for sale, like individual flavors, because they just sell it in a variety bag. Yes. Misha, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, not walking the dog because the dog has a bad back. Yeah. And very easy then to say, well, he can't go walking. So where are you? What are you doing for exercise? It's so easy to push it aside because, we don't, yeah. Yes, walks for Charlie. Charlie walks for Mac. Yes. Yes, I do. He unfortunately got a little tangle, a little tussle with a skunk last night. I think it's a baby skunk though, so thank the Lord. Because he got a good squirt, but it landed on his face and he landed in his ear. So he smells better than he did yesterday, but his ear is still stinky. But you don't want to like dump the tomato sauce down his ear and just like let it sit there forever. I don't know. I mean, I guess it couldn't really hurt him, but I can definitely see a head shake in there and tomato soup going everywhere inside the shower. You used to do a 5 kilometer walk after full hours in 45 minutes. Damn. I ran mine in 25. So you're walking it in 45. That is a good, crisp pace for sure. Definitely. Yes, Janet and I were laughing earlier this week because we discovered that my roommate's dog, Charlie, and her dog lay the same way. Their back legs out, like they're frogs. Yeah, they look pretty funny. Okay, sorry, I guess I'm just going back through the comments a little bit. So yum, yum, yum. Wow, it looks like most of us have lost. Most of us have lost like 50 pounds. That's cool. I mean, it's because we understand what goes into it, and we understand, how it feels being a heavier person, being, versus whatever weight you're at, currently. And I certainly felt better. I certainly definitely felt better. And Mock, you're adding half a package of Parmesan to that risotto. I really wish I lived closer. David is committed to traveling at some point, and I told him he can't go unless he takes me. So he can't go until he makes enough money to travel for two. This is what I've Minnesota? You struggle to get 3 kilometers in. Oh, to get to 3 kilometers an hour. Yeah. When we've been out of it, it's amazing how quickly we can just fall out of being able to do something. Your middle name is Parmesan, Janet. I do like me some Parmesan. I like cheese a whole heck of a lot, I have to say. David's pretty incapable of going out and not stopping at the store. So he came back with some smoked Gouda the other day. Not the greatest smoked Gouda, but smoked Gouda is still better than no Gouda. I just gotta say, it's pretty yummy. I hadn't had smoked Gouda in a while, but I gotta imagine that and some risotto would taste really, really good. You would give up meat before cheese? Ooh. I think as long as I didn't have to give up carbs before cheese, I'd be good because there's just something about a grilled cheese sandwich, especially if you make it with even something other than Kraft American Singles, which old standby, still a favorite, got to admit. But when you get grown up and discover that you can make grilled cheese sandwiches with things other than that, you can put like Colby or sharp cheddar on it. You can put meat on it. There's so many things you can do to your toasted cheesies. Your cheese toasties. Is that how it goes? Cheese toasties? Misha, put up her channel. Put up Cosmic's channel, and I will certainly sub to it because I know that I'm not. So I think that's wonderful. And I will definitely have to go check out your channel to see the live that you did. So here is her website. Unfortunately, because when I put my clicker on something, all it does is let me put it on screen and then hides it. I'll have to go to it afterwards. But there you go, guys. So if you aren't a sub to her, get her over her limit so she can do lives as well. That would be absolutely fabulous. You can't get English cheese in Ireland. But you guys are like right next to each other. Kind of. I mean, it's not that far. I will be honest, I don't think I've ever had brie on a grilled cheese. I've had brie, melted brie on a whole number of things, but I have not had it on that. Huh. Who don't like each other? Misha and Cosmic? Oh, I bet they hate each other. No, I'm kidding. Of course you guys love each other. I don't know, maybe you're talking about Janet's twins. I'm not sure. Can someone put Shannon's channel up as well? Shannon, if someone doesn't have it, maybe if you have it, then you can just go ahead. Oh, that's right. Because England broke off and it's non-EU. So when your friend from Scotland visits, you ask for cheese and tea. I think that's totally fair. I think that's totally fair. Give your friend some Irish whiskey to head back. Yeah, I don't think we've seen Shannon's channel very much. So Shannon, if you could just tell us, what its name is, so you can go at whatever, we can find it that way and get the actual URL. Deidre, you're still on my list of people to visit. So are you, Mark. I'm crossing over the EU border from England, and I'm visiting y'all, definitely. Okay, so this is Mark's grilled cheese. Mountain cheese, which I have to say, I have no idea what you're talking about. Cream cheese, interesting. My son now puts it on his scrambled eggs in the pan. So it like melts all in it. I have not had a bite of it. It doesn't look horrid. I ate cream cheese, cold cream cheese, cucumber, and pot roast sandwiches. Or roast beef would do in a pinch if mom hadn't made pot roast, but that's how I ate the leftover pot roast. Don't ask me why, and don't ask me why I chose to use cream cheese instead of mayonnaise that first time. We shall never know. So mountain cheese, cream cheese, Parmesan cheese, and some Swiss cheese to make grilled. Huh. Well, you still need to explain to me what mountain cheese is, Mark. And I gotta leave the Swiss off. I just don't like Swiss. I've tried to like Swiss. People are like, oh, here's baby Swiss. It's not as, it doesn't have that, tang thing to it that regular Swiss has. It's, you like it. You really like it. No, no, I don't. Sorry. It's just like blue cheese, Roquefort cheese, Limburger cheese, none of them. I just don't like any of them. So, but I am pretty good. I should say I do like most other cheeses. But I have not had a ton of cheeses from around the world. So, like just to have a French hard cheese, I wouldn't know that it was French versus somebody else, So, definitely a lot of eating around the world that I want to do. But David's a big hiker, so we could actually work it off. I could eat them here, Misha. I could, and I may start to, but I certainly want to do it when we're over there. Shannon, I'm sorry, sweetheart. You can't be my sister. I don't love the stinky European cheeses. Ugh. Ugh. If it smells like a skunk, I just can't get past the olfactory sense to it. I really can't. It's mountain cheese is Austrian cheese from mountain cows. And you don't mean the, oh, American idea of Swiss cheese. You mean one of the cheeses from Switzerland. Now, see, exactly, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. So you're not talking Swiss cheese, you're talking Swiss cheese. That's awesome. And I figured the mountain cheese had something to do with some goats or some animal in the mountains, but I didn't exactly know. I do love pot roast. I do love pot roast, I have to say. The thing I don't love is how you can't really use a lot of the juice because of how fatty it is. And I don't have the patience to like put it in the freezer and freeze it real quick or something so the fat rises to the top so you can, just throw that piece away and you can use the rest of it. And I don't have, you get the fat separators, that cup with the tube that goes, never worked. Absolutely never worked. Every single time I tried it. So I gave up. I gave up. I still make homemade gravy. I just end up, using like a broth as a base instead. There's some incredible cheeses in Quebec. I don't doubt it. Gruyere cheese is amazing, Deidre. I will chime in on that one with you. Homemade gravy is awesome. Homemade gravy is awesome. And it's not that difficult once you learn. I don't know. Misha, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you make it in a totally different way than I do. So, um, blue cheese. I have no ill will towards any of you who like the blue cheese and the others and the stinky cheeses, and I still love you. I still love you. Just weird taste buds, guys. Weird taste buds. Feta and mozzarella have high lactose. This I did not know. Yeah, see, Shannon, I usually make the flour roux. I usually make that and put it in towards the end. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but I usually do it towards the end, and then I let everything simmer that way too. I don't know. I don't know if I make gravy the right way or the textbook recipe way. Put it that way, the right way. Well, guys, I did actually have a topic picked for today. Woo! Yay me! Yay me! Um, and I am going to be switching back and forth to some screens here, so pardon me if I look this way and that way. I'm sorry, I'm reading. I'm sorry, Janet. All I can think of is Silence of the Lambs when reading your comment. When I was a sous chef, my chef taught me how to make gravy using a roux. It roasts the flour to make the flavor better. It lotions its skin. I'm sorry, it's all I can hear in my head. I do love Scottish, Irish accents. I do love them. And it's just the way you wrote. It made me laugh. Deidre, you went to a cheese tasting. And it smelled horrid there. You assumed the new puppy had an accident, but it was actually some delicious cheese that smelled like death. Ah. Ah. Cornstarch, yeah, cornstarch, arrowroot, two really good substitutes if you don't make an actual roux. Okay, guys, so let's talk a little bit about revictimization. And I know this is something we've mentioned here on the channel before because a lot of us have personal familiarity with this subject. Let me get resituated here. And I was trying to do some research into statistics because it's one of the things that I always like to give you guys when we're talking about things that affect a lot of us, How many of us is that? It's really hard to get numbers when you're talking about anything to do with SA. It's particularly hard to get numbers with revictimization because you 100% are relying on self-reporting, whether you've reported it to the police or whether you are just reporting it for some survey that they're doing or part of some study that's being done. I can't put much stock into those numbers at all, and here's why. I'm critical of the amount of people who would actually tell the truth. Yes, yes, I was victimized, and yes, I've been victimized before in the same manner. I can see people relaying their earlier experience. I could see people saying, I've had some trauma in my past, but maybe not owning up to the same trauma. So I spent a long time looking for figures, and the best that I can guess is the number of sexual assault victims who will be re-victimized again is about 50%. Some studies put it as low as 30%. Nobody really argued for greater than 50. So if you want to say 40, 45 to be, on a safer side than 50, go ahead. Still staggering numbers. And I think this conversation goes right along with talking, when we spoke about intergenerational trauma, because it's something that you desperately want to stop, right? There's the trauma that we deal with from our original sexual assault, whether that was repeated with one person or whether that was a single incident. The second assault victimizes us, and we have trauma from the second assault. But then this concept of re-victimization, it's a trauma in and of itself, because that's where all the feelings can come up even more so of, why me? The first time you can be wondering, why me? The second time you're wondering, why me? This is obviously personal because it's happened again to me. So there's got to be something about me. I'm a common denominator. And that's really, really difficult to heal from, because there's so much that you've got to be able to put in its proper box in order to deal with that. Misha had a comment. Oh, okay. Yeah. You can re-victimize yourself in terms of lots of behaviors. The word used to be, used to be a lot with the sexual assaults. And when I first heard about it, that's all I heard about it being talked with. Now, it could have been used with other things and I just didn't hear them at the time, which is totally possible. One of the reasons it's tough to get statistics is because a lot of the statistics would, and this sits on the other part, hit on just re-victimization in general. And so that can be from any crime, SA, domestic violence, what were some of the other, just PTSD, any of your other traumas the being in a car accident, having a house fire. I mean, you name the trauma, they were talking about it, and just how likely you were to have that same thing happen to you again. So the concept of revictimization is not limited just to SA. And so both Misha, you're correct, and I think who said it also, Deidre, yes. The concept can be used for any number of traumas. With SA, especially as a child, because you do originally have that sense of, why me? What did I do? And unless you ask that out loud, you probably didn't get any answer. And so the time that it comes the second time, maybe you do have people who tell you that you aren't good enough or smart enough or pretty enough, or whatever the thing is. And so it happens again. You're essayed a second time. You go, well, okay, maybe it's that. It's all that. This is my fault. I did this. How did I do this? Yeah, so we're going to definitely, it can happen in a lot of different circumstances. And I'm only going to limit it. Well, I was talking. I'm going to limit it to just talking about sexual assault. But why do we, beyond just, it happens a lot. Why? Why does this happen a lot to us? Well, there's a lot of different factors. And some of them have to deal with when we get to be an adult. So revictimization again as an adult. But let's just talk about it within the context of being a child. Why does that happen? Why does it happen again? And we're talking about with a different perpetrator, because you can be abused, for years and years and every day by one person. And yes, you're re-victimized every time you're assaulted, but we're talking about having it happen with multiple perpetrators. Okay. So when you're a kid, this happens to you. One of the first things that generally is noticed is you become more withdrawn. You're just not your usual self. And that withdrawing, that isolation in and of itself is going to make it easier for the pedophiles to have access to you, because you're not, part of a bigger group. And chances are you are already kind of off to the side anyway. That's how the groomers get you. That's how they pick you. But also, you've been beaten down enough by your perpetrator, if you're groomed, that it doesn't take quite as much the second time to hook you in. Negative coping skills, particularly as an adult, we're talking about, getting involved in drugs um, or alcohol, or promiscuity, or just name a negative behavior, and it's something that you can get involved with to cope with what's going on. And a lot of times that's going to put you into contact with people who aren't necessarily going to be have the best of intentions, certainly not your best intentions. And so you're part of an at-risk population. Um, I'm just reading through your comments for a little bit. Interesting that you guys are talking about services here, because one of the factors as to whether or not you're going to be re-victimized does have to do with your support system. Just as we're talking about any of the factors that made you susceptible to grooming, to identification as somebody who would be targeted by a groomer, all of that stuff is going to make it easier for you to be considered part of the re-victimization pool. Doesn't mean you're definitely going to, but it certainly puts you at a much higher risk. And the risk numbers that I was coming up with, they were going anywhere from like 2 to 18 times more. And it's like, pardon? It was just such a huge variation that I don't think that they could even put any type of general numbers on things. So it was basically, if you don't have a support system and you only have a single parent, then you are X times likely. And so they're breaking it down by very specific behaviors because they just didn't have enough crossways, I think, to make sense of everything. So what your support system is like at home is incredibly crucial. And some of the things that, as I was listening to some people talk on this issue, one of the reasons is whatever we've been told. Our bar for what's acceptable to us gets put pretty low when we're assaulted, especially if it's a chronic type of assault, So it's more than one day. It's not a blitz attack. It's not a single event, just a single day. And we kind of feel like, well, I guess I deserved this. I deserve to have this happen to me. And a lot of times you're told that you are, and this is your fault. So I don't deserve any better. I can't do any better. I shouldn't do any better. I shouldn't aspire to anything more. And we put ourselves in these boxes. And so what do we end up attracting? We end up attracting people with the personality types who take advantage of people with our personality types, particularly the person who's a people pleaser, because that's what made people happy when they were young. If you pleased them, if you did the dishes, if you took care of your little brother, if you pleased the perpetrator, pleasing is good. Talking is not. Trying to get love yourself, that's not. But pleasing other people, that is what worked. And so that's what you stay with. Not realizing, because it's a subconscious thing of attracting those people, not realizing you're getting stuck into the same dynamic. And so if you have something happen to you over and over again, most likely is you're stuck in that dynamic because of some particular reason. There's also the concept, and this could be, obviously, you can have more than one of these. You probably have a lot of them. There becomes an association of pain or the abuse and all the feelings that go along with the abuse and love. Because, hey, mayonnaise, no worries, look away. If your perpetrator was a parent, if your perpetrator filled that void of love for you, so there was some sort of love there, that gets all muddled in your head. So that abuse can equate to love. And so later on in our lives, that's what we think of. So that's the type of person that we attract, abusers. And these are typically the people that you will find in that get sucked into domestic, either toxic relationships in general with narcissistic people, and ones then that include domestic violence. Another thing that can happen is, the gut instinct that we all have, and how easy it is to push that gut instinct down. Well, when we're talking about re-victimization, it's real easy because of our past experience for us to ignore those warning signs, ignore those red flags that we're seeing in somebody else, because we've been there before. And in the past, when we felt something wasn't right, we wanted to assert a certain boundary or express a certain opinion, we were told, shut up and be quiet, or your opinion doesn't matter, or you tried to disclose abuse and you were told that you were lying. So time and time again, with whatever the situation is, you were told your reality is not your reality. So your perception isn't great. So we ignore these feelings that something might be wrong or something might be off because you see, I can't tell those things. Or I shouldn't even look at it because I'm just supposed to shut up and sit down. So it's just another way that being abused can manifest, later, the thinking in our lives. Jadri, I feel you. I feel your pain. Child sexual assault, it does. It sexualizes us at such an early age that it's hard to relate to our peers because you're relating on one level to them, but you know something else. And that makes you different. And you can either try to explain it to people, which generally doesn't go over very well because maybe you tried to explain the abuse and no one listened to you, or you just act it out. And if you're acting it out, depending on your age, you're either just being looked at as a troublemaker, or if you're at the age where boys are starting to notice, they're going, hey, hey, hey. Yeah. And the adults just think something's wrong with you. And part of that, and I can only speak for America because that's where I was born and raised, we have such a love-hate relationship with sexuality. We love it. There's so much of it around us. Our ads, our movies, our TV programs, our humor, any of it and all of it. It's hugely laced with sexuality. The clothes, and the clothes that are young people are supposed to wear. Let's take tweens, the clothes that are being made for tweens are way beyond their years, really. And yet we're telling them, don't be a sexual being because that's bad. Because there's still these patriarchal ideas of what it means to be a person. Let's take it one step further, to be a woman, from a woman's standpoint. I can't speak to how this is for boys growing up when they start to mature sexually. I don't really know what the messages that they get, what they feel the messages they get. Be interested to ask my son to see from his generation what they what they had to say about that. Very well said, Mark. Very well said. In America, you get to be sexualized, but you don't get to own your sexuality or your sensuality. It's very true because if you're too sexy or too sensual, you're thought of as a prostitute or an easy person or, someone with low morals because of you choose to own yourself, own your sexuality. We all have it. It's a weird dichotomy, isn't it? Shannon thinks that there is a complete double standard. And in terms of men and women, I completely agree. And that's just because of our patriarchal society. And I won't say until we have rejected all of the conscriptions that have been put on us by that, because I don't think that all of it is bad. Just because it's a patriarchal society doesn't mean that everything within it is bad. You could have a matriarchal society and that might not be good either for certain reasons. But I do think the dichotomy between, how women are treated and taught to think about sex and how men are is vastly different in the United States. The message that you get for premarital sex is vastly different. Men sow their wild oats, and women are supposed to be virginal. That's why we had the sexual revolution, and that's why we've, had rape shield laws put into place, and it's so much about owning our own sexuality and being able to express it without being assaulted, right? You hated your volleyball pants, Mock, because they were so short. Yeah, they're sowing their wild oats. I'd love to know where that phrase came from and how it came to mean sleeping with everybody that you see. I'm not sure that was the original intention. Sorry, guys, I'm just reading back real quick. Well, I suppose the sleeping aspect is negotiable. I also learned about something that I had heard about before, but I'd never really given it much credence because I was like, how? Okay, maybe this happens with like other types of things, other traumas, but this isn't going to happen in regards to a sexual assault. Come on, this makes no sense. And the concept is reenactment. The idea being that you reenact the same scenario over and over again, hoping to have a different outcome. Knowing what you know now, you could do it and have it be a different outcome. You could be robbed at gunpoint, but you know X, Y, and Z now, so you can get out of it. It's that idea, and it's odd. And I can't see it existing in a vacuum. So if you didn't have these other factors, if you didn't feel like yourself like you do, I don't know that reenactment could kind of stand on its own. But with everything else and being susceptible and vulnerable to revictimization for sexual assault, I could see kind of on a subconscious level that you might gravitate towards people who didn't seem to have your best interests at heart. I still am having a hard time wrapping my head around, even subconsciously, how reenactment would work with sexual assault. And I know it's not a logical thing. So, and I guess that's me. That's my logic trying to understand something that's not logical. Most of these concepts I can get, or at least I can frame it in a different way to make it make sense to me. This it's yeah, it's interesting. Oh my. Now I've heard at schools that will check the your shorts length or your skirt length, but inspections to check that you're wearing the correct school underwear, that seems to be a bit much for me. That's a little much. Female teacher did the inspection. Not sure the parents knew. That is so weird. Okay, I'm trying to find the other half of this, Misha. So, in responding to the reenactment concept, Misha says, I've seen many friends who do so because they feel like if it's going to happen to them, at least it's because they caused it, not because it's being taken from them. That's I can complete from a psychology standpoint, I can completely understand that. Um, it just breaks my heart. It really does. It breaks my heart. Mayonnaise went to a Roman Catholic school, and so they checked your uniforms daily, but didn't go to underwear. Yeah, that's a little weird. That's a little weird. Yeah, such a difference, Mock, between the U.S. and elsewhere. Deidre's experience that she's talking about was a government school in South Africa. Um, Mayonnaise, I believe, is talking about a Roman Catholic school that's in the United States. And here, Mock is talking about a Catholic school in Germany and how they were allowed to wear hot pants to school. It is. It's so bizarre, and thankfully we're getting farther away from it. Um, but I'm very concerned, and I listened to a podcast just the other day, and two gentlemen were on, and they were speaking about how men are growing up viewing women and viewing what they should be like sexually and in relation to men. And you've got this whole trad wife phenomenon going on, and the Nora Smiths of the world. And then you've got the accessibleness of porn. And I think when you combine these two things, really that's 1940s version of a female. And we're just going backwards. The trad wife trend, more power to you. You want to get back to basics and not have processed foods and eat healthier and have all your meals be home cooked. Rock on. I 100% fully support you in that. And you want that to be your mantle to wear as part of your relationship? Fine. But the expectation it puts on wives and mothers, I think, is very unhealthy. And I don't think enough people realize that the people making those videos are not doing it and still having all the free time to do everything else that normal people do. They've got help. They've got help. Oh my gosh. In the early 70s, Janet's older sister was one of the girls who protested to demand that girls be allowed to wear pants to school. 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And now we have a generation who has the trad wife trend on one hand and seeing how porn treats women on the other, both of which have been going on since, they were young, and this is what they've been raised on. So if they have been raised on nothing else but pop culture and social platforms, Lord help their partners. I hope they had other people in their lives who have spoken to them about relationships and about sexuality and gotten them on the right path. The next 20 years will tell as to kind of, what happened to all these people who are in the early 20s now. So it's 20 years from now. Let's see what their 20s brought them. And see if these trends, these concepts, if they do us a disservice. Deaudrey, that was one of the things that people were talking about a lot, is whether or not the trad wife stuff was rage bait. And if you don't know, rage bait is basically doing something that is going to piss off a section of the population. And you're doing it purposefully because when people are pissed off, they're more likely going to comment, especially if they're watching a video that's posted. It's not live, so they can't comment in there. So they're more likely going to comment. The more comments, the more interaction with the video, the higher the YouTube algorithm places it. So it's all for the clicks, baby. It's all for the clicks. And some of it, this is how I spent my day, and I got all this done, and I have receipts to prove it. And here they were talking about literal receipts. So here's my receipt for I went here, and here's my receipt I went here, and here's my receipt I went here, and he did all this. And somebody was putting this together in a video, and it was, well, you have to stop it, and you have to look closely. But the receipts were from all different days. Didn't do that one day. Not even in that order. So, you know, I do feel like the younger generation is more jaded when it comes to videos that are put up as to whether or not be real or fake. I'd say the under 30 crowd. It's interesting to me though that the older people are, the usually I hear from them that they take it as face value. Look what this person can do. Or I can't believe, so it's interesting that you don't believe the videos. Yeah, I've gotten real jaded with it. I think I came from the older mindset originally because I'm not on a lot of social media. I haven't followed a lot of social media. I think, I fell into the Facebook hole like everybody else. And in the early 2000s, I shut it off. I shut it down. No, probably about 2010. Because I was I was at that point where all I was seeing were these people who I barely knew, or I knew them from high school. They weren't my friends per se. They were just people I knew, right? Because that's most of what your Facebook is. If it's not your own friends and family, then it's really just people you know. And then posting pictures of their perfect life. Look what my husband did for me today. Look at my kids. Aren't they so beautiful and so well behaved? They never cry. Or whatever the situation is, that woman could have gotten herself flowers that day. She could have just gotten done cleaning the kitchen, took a picture of that kitchen and said, look what my husband did for me today. But the feeling you got, right? Just watching this day in and day out, I couldn't take it. That's why I just said, nope, I'm off. And until I stumbled on YouTube, which, gosh, I think before I started my channel, I'd only been on it a couple of years. Really hadn't known it all that long. I'd listen to my brother talk all the time about falling down one YouTube rabbit hole or another, but I had never looked up videos. I just had never thought to until I started. I don't know what the reason was why I very first got on. I don't know. Okay. It's a little disjointed today, and for that I apologize if it feels weird for all of you. So, what else can we talk about in terms of revictimization? I think that it's critical that we know about it, excuse me, and we know about the concept because it is very important in terms of speaking about surviving and speaking about healing. In surviving, the education piece is that we have to be extremely aware of ourselves as survivors, that we don't come off as vulnerable, that we're not doing those isolating things, that we're not making it easy to to pick me out as vulnerable. We need to be aware of our own self-talk. We have to be aware of what we think of ourselves. We have to be aware of what good boundaries are, what a good relationship is. There's so much that we have to heal from. And it takes time. And in that time, all your vulnerableness is not going to just magically go away. And so I think it's extremely important to speak to new victims And I say victims because until they make it through that first day or two, and then they're going to be survivors. Or they can choose just to be victims their entire lives and just to, lay dormant, never deal with it, never deal with anything, and just really take on that victim mantle. And some people choose to do that. I really like to think that anybody who makes it on the other side is a survivor. They just don't choose to do anything with that title. Um, and this is it. This is it, Crystal. Trying to get the bullseye off your head, or victim written in predator ink. It's only ink that they get special black lights that they can put up to you. And oh yeah, here's one. We got one. Confidence goes a long way. Crystal, you in particular have come so far, from where you were. You recognize that you need to have boundaries, and that having boundaries is healthy. And you're getting to know yourself and what you think about certain things. Because remember, you can't set those boundaries if you don't know yourself. I mean, you can, you're just not necessarily going to stick by them. If that's not truly what you want, you're just putting it here as kind of a placeholder. I guess, that's what I'm talking about. Yet you still get victimized by others. Well, part of it, well, there's a whole conversation to be had there, and I don't want to air some things out here on the channel. So we'll speak, but it's hard. It's not an immediate fix. Being able to heal to the point where we are not victimized in any way. Because yes, being victimized in ways other than sexual assault can also continue to happen to us based on our mindsets, our beliefs, things that have been drilled into us, the trauma, um, all of that. We can allow ourselves to be a doormat and to be walked on, and you're victimized that way. We allow ourselves to get into relationships that are unhealthy, and we're getting re-victimized that way. So there's so much that needs to be done to ensure, right, that we won't be a victim again in any aspect. But it's a lot. And so give yourself grace if you find that you did fall into one of those pools again. Easy to do, but the key is figuring out what happened and why did it happen. So I was re-victimized again. Did I subconsciously look for this? This does not make it your fault. And I know a lot of people are very careful to use any of that kind of language, but you have to look at yourself. Not to say that you are wrong or that you did anything wrong. But if you're attracting somebody who was just like your dad and he was an abuser, and you are equating love and pain, love and abuse, you need to know that about yourself. We have to be aware of what we think and what we feel and what we would believe. So I just want to caution you against, looking at something and going, oh, I thought this, so therefore I I'm to blame for what happened to me. No, you're not. No, you're not. Your beliefs and your values that you had at that point in time and how you carried yourself and who you chose to surround yourself may have made you a more likely target, may have increased your odds of being of attracting that type of person, but it does not mean what ultimately happened to you is your fault. So don't be afraid to look inside. Don't be afraid to look at yourself and what you have contributed to a situation. Take that word fault out of your vocabulary and just throw it away, because it does not have any part, unless you're talking about the abuser. It does not play a part in any conversation you need to have about your sexual assault or about healing from it. Listening to your gut can go a long way, Shannon, and it's one of the things that we have to consciously tell ourselves, particularly if we're one of those people who have accepted that reality must be something different than what I see, because I've been told that my whole life. So my internal intuition, whatever, my needle's broken. And so we ignore the red flags that we see. Absolutely, Crystal. Victim to victor. Victim to victor. Mock, you like using target over victim, as it puts the offender in the responsibility. Okay. For me, victim says it all. You were the victim. Somebody else was the perpetrator, i.e., the fault does not lay with you, no matter what you did. No matter what you did. But that's my feeling. Mayonnaise, this is very common. You don't realize you're a victim till it's too late, and then you feel like crap afterwards. These are the times that, yeah, we didn't realize what the signs were. We didn't realize what the person's intent was. And those are the things that we just have to look at and go, okay, why? Why didn't I see it until too late? Were they that good at masking what their intentions were? Was I pushing down my gut instinct, ignoring that and ignoring the red flags that I was seeing? What was it that pulled the wool over your eyes for so long? And by understanding that, then you can hope to try and change that behavior in the future, or do something about that behavior to make it stronger and less likely that you would be, pulled in and taken advantage of at the last minute, because you're going to pull that wool back over your eyes. You're going to pull it up and over so that you can see clearly. And analyzing what has been going on, why did this happen? Try and make a difference for the next time you encounter someone of that nature or that particular situation. Crystal, this has nothing to do with you. I can almost guarantee it. He said, when I've been assertive, I've been called a bitch and a bully. You know what? Most strong women do. And it's because people are threatened. Now, can it be delivery? Certainly. If we have an attitude, or if we have a tone, or, something of that nature. But most often it's just because somebody does not like whatever we're doing. whatever we're asserting. So the way to discount that is to make you into a bad person, to make you seem like you're a bad person, or that you shouldn't be listened to for whatever reason, right? That's their issue. That's not yours. If you are kindly but firmly impressing upon them where your boundary is, however they choose to take that, that's on them. Totally on them. Now, it's difficult sometimes when we're asserting our boundaries to make sure that we keep the anger out of it. And granted, when I talk here and I talk about these situations and I say, well, we should try and do this or we should try and do that, that's ideal, right? That's ideal. Someone pushes you too much and pushes you about a boundary and you're talking to them and you've already gotten to the point where you're irate, you're probably going to be pretty irate when you're explaining the boundary to them that they just will not seem to see, and that occurs. But if you can first off, very first time you're talking to somebody about something, if you do it kindly but firmly, yeah, see, I'm seeing the same thing from everybody else. Being assertive, being an assertive woman really means being an assertive man, right? Being in dominating position. Let's take a work situation. It's looked upon favorably, right? You're taking control. You're a good manager. You can lead a company like this. You're the same person who's a woman. And again, generalizations. There are some companies that are absolutely fabulous out there, but there are still a lot of companies that have a lot of people who still hold a very patriarchal view of society and think that you're out of place. If you're voicing your opinion too loud or too firmly, you're out of your depth. Women aren't supposed to or can't have thoughts, good opinions. And if they're too assertive, they're a bitch. Men who are assertive aren't asses, at least, in general, they're not looked at upon like that. And so it's unfortunate that women are. Oh yeah, and this whole demure thing that's trend that's come on right now. Are we trying to go back to the 1950s? Is that what everything is about? I don't understand some of the stuff that's going on these days. Maybe I need to be more involved with social media, but I think I might go crazy because just looking at the feeds of people who are trying to point out crazy things on social media is enough for me to tell me what a just absolute mess it is. From TikTok to Instagram to YouTube, but all of it. So yeah, big trend about being demure. Um, Not doing ourselves any favors. That's all I can say about that. Just not doing ourselves any favors. Just wanted to look through here. I think we've talked about all the key points with this. It breaks some things down even more, but we've already spoken about that in regards to grooming and just being a vulnerable person in general. Yeah, I think we've spoken about all those big points. Being demure, give me a break, man. He says, yeah, it's been interesting. Some of the people I've seen who are putting themselves up. It's with the whole demure thing is maybe it is, Deidre. Maybe demure is such a new word that they think it's a concept that they've invented now. I think they put a twist on it. I haven't done a whole lot of research into it. I just have heard it mentioned sometimes and seen some of a few of the TikToks that have been sent to me with the women made up to be demure. Never been a girly girl, not about to start now. You do you, Crystal. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I there were times where I was a girly girl. But in general, no. You're much more likely to find me in, jeans and, well, nowadays it's yoga pants and a sweatshirt. I have no need to put on makeup to go out every single time I do, or if I'm going out to a bar to dress up because I'm going out to meet friends. It's, yeah, that's not something that's me. This is more casual and I feel more comfortable. And if that's who you are in your skin, then that's who you should be. 100%. Shannon is a girly girl, but one who learned to stand up for herself. There you go. I think most of us were mocked nice and quiet until you're not, but you warned ahead of time. Yes. I think that, we all have our line, right? That if we get pushed past it, we're not going to be nice anymore. And I know that line differs with various people. There are certain people in certain situations I just have no patience for. Zero, zip, zero, zilch. And trying not to go off like a rocket at the very first that I meet them and discover this about them, that can be very hard. Um, very much so. I think this video, when I make it into a video, is going to be pretty short. And I don't know, maybe it's because of everything that we've talked about for so long. This has always kind of been a part of what we've spoken about, because at 40 or 50%, the likelihood that it was going to or has happened to you again, revictimization, pretty likely, right? We won't say more likely than not, but whoo-wee, definitely. Definitely. Crystal, I had the same thing. I had a brother to play with, maybe. And that was pretty much it. Yeah. So, I mean, and I never really was interested in dolls, or maybe it's just because I didn't have anybody to play with like that, but I didn't have much of imagination just to sit there by myself. I would have a doll and I'd change their outfits or something, but it's to have them go do, 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 do. Oh, look, they're playing with Ken. I really didn't have any interest in it. Just did not. Where you come from, women are meant to be tough and do everything a man can. I like that, mayonnaise. I like that. All right, guys. Well, it's almost 5 o'clock. I know it's going to be my dinner time here soon, so I think I'm going to start wrapping this up. Crystal, on the whole, I just want to say you're doing great. I know you have your struggles and you see them and think you haven't moved forward, but you have moved forward leaps and bounds, and you're still learning, you're still healing. And that's okay. That is okay. Where you are right now is okay. It's where you are. You're on a healing journey. You're learning from it. And so enjoy the ride. I'm slowly learning to give up looking 18 steps down the road. It's not to say that you don't have a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan or, 6-month plan, but to constantly worrying about a decision that I make today is going to affect me or my loved ones 3 years down the road. For the most part, it's a stress I don't need to have. And I'm discovering that. I so there are things that we can put our energy behind, and there's things that we really don't need to. And deciding which one falls into which bucket can be difficult. And there's times where I turn to my friends and I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is something I need to be worrying about or whether I'm stressing myself out needlessly. Is this something I just need to come to terms with and then I'm good? Is this something I need to keep dealing with? Is this part of my process? I just don't know. And so that's where connection is so important, reaching out and talking to people and getting that second opinion of yourself, of how you think of things. It's going to be a never-ending journey, Crystal. That there's always work to do means you're human. Healing from trauma can be a very long and arduous process, and it depends on what all you have to heal from. When we talk about all those aspects that make trauma different for different people, same trauma can be a traumatic event can be a trauma for one person and not a trauma for another. And so what all about that trauma do you have to deal with? Um, you've checked almost every single box, with your situation and your support system and where you lived and, all of it. So it's a lot. It's a lot. But you're better than where you were. And that you're still wanting to move forward, that you're still on the healing journey says a lot about you. So try and focus on that and try and focus on what was the last thing you felt successful about in your healing journey. And always keep those in mind, because some things we could reach for and fail at, 18 times before we finally succeed and we finally healed something. And you may feel you've healed the trauma and it just pops up 5 years again, 5 years down the road, or there's an aspect, something about it triggered, because we're never going to be 100% healed. We can take the emotion out of it and we can try and retrain our brain to not react to certain situations, certain ways, but our bodies do have a memory. And if things got bad again, you bet that that's going to pop back out. So we never forget them. But hopefully we can take the emotion out of that fear, the emotion out of that concept, the emotion out of dealing with this situation. And then that anxiety and that depression can lessen, from that. There you go. Power in pink. Absolutely. You can still be a girly girl and still have gumption. Falling apart after a traumatic experience is completely normal. It just means that during the most stressful times, you're able to successfully shut down your parasympathetic nervous system, and you are firing on all cylinders in being aware and surviving and getting through and getting done what needs to be done, and all of that. And once that's done and you don't need any of that, you fall apart. That's kind of a calming. It's an automatic calming mechanism that our bodies can do to kick the parasympathetic nervous system into action. So having those tools in our toolbox of what makes us calm, what can switch us from one nervous system to another is really, really important. Because if we can't do that for ourselves, if we don't already have them primed and ready, it's going to be harder to reach for them in the moment. So if you know that you're going to a situation that could potentially trigger you, just do a mental checklist of what you've got in your toolbox to go over to be able to calm yourself down. I think it's really helpful to remind ourselves of that and have that at the ready. That's wonderful. See, you inspire others too, Crystal. I'm glad that we can all be there for each other. Misha, I've known many a days where I did not want to go out of bed. I've had many a days where I have not left the house. And that's why my friend is getting all over me about leaving the house, about promising him that I'm going to leave the house when he's not here. So I get it. I totally get it. It's all you can do some days to put one foot in front of the other and feel like you're actually making your way to the next day than just waiting for it to occur. I definitely feel your pain on that one. You've had them too, Shannon. Yeah, I think a lot of us have. If you've ever suffered with severe depression or addiction, it's someplace that you definitely have been. Well, guys, with this, I am going to say goodbye for the evening. I hope all you in America have a wonderful long weekend. If you have a long weekend, it's just Labor Day Monday here in the U.S., which is a holiday. Won't affect anything here. I will be back Wednesday. I don't know if I'll have a job right then, but we'll hope. Cross our fingers. Supposedly, my old job has work for me to do, so I sent them a message saying I'd be available after Labor Day. We'll see if they pick me up on it. Love all of you guys. Mock, Janet, Shannon, Crystal, Mayonnaise. Who did I miss? Anybody I missed who was here, who popped in the live? If I did miss your name, I'm sorry. Crystal, did I say Crystal? I was looking at you. If I didn't, I think that's about all that we had here in the live that we were chatting with today. So yeah, Please remember, you are worthy. You are strong because you're a survivor. And you're loved just the way you are for who you are. So, hugs and love, guys. So much hugs and love from me. I'm trying to figure out which way to move in the screen. There we go. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll definitely see you on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. No, I don't have a topic picked yet, but I'll figure something out. Let me know in the comments if you're getting any notifications for lives, because it seems to be a little bit of an issue, and I don't know where to go to fix it quite yet. So check your subscription status if you are subscribed. If you aren't and you're just listening to this, go ahead and hit that button. It's free for you, and it helps me a whole lot, and it's going to help our channel even more. If you need to get a hold of me, surviving together, sass@gmail.com. Hit the like button, please, guys. I really appreciate it. All right, I'm out. See ya.